Pretty bare. People off today for Columbus Day. I believe the banks are closed, and I don't believe the mail will be delivered today as federal holiday. And usually, with federal holidays, that includes the post office and the banks for Columbus Day. How do you feel this morning? I tell you, it's kind of been a crazy weekend. If you were listening earlier, I um, have been playing some of the audio from different cities throughout the South. This is no longer uh, a local problem. It has truly become national. But this past weekend, though, uh, it became regional in terms of the South. I mean, when I it the mass shootings. Let me back up before we get into the mass shootings. I'm going to take a quick commercial break and straighten the camera out, so, so you don't have to look at an empty chair that's covering up the logo. 334-875-1490 and 1492 are the numbers to call if you have comments or questions. We are live on YouTube. The YouTube channel is live, and if you're used to Facebook, you can go to Facebook and you'll see it shares the YouTube link. And so, and what I need to do, and I will do, God willing, within the next day or so, is create a live link where all you have to do is click it, and it will bring you to the live feed on YouTube. But that I haven't quite gotten there yet. Let's take this quick break, and I'll be right back. 1490 WHBB. Good morning. On this Monday morning, October the 13th, 2025. Very interesting historical today. I, I'll tell you what, today is historic in a number of ways. First of all, of course, this is October 13th, 2025. 250 years ago, the United States Navy came into being. So today is the Navy's 250th birthday. We have ties to the Navy. I mentioned earlier there are people I'm sure who are already familiar with it, but there may be some who are not. But Howard Gilmore Jr., the naval commander during World War II, was honored in Memorial Stadium. There is a plaque in his honor, and it tells the story. Uh, he was so much of a hero until Commander Gilmore influenced and has influenced Navy culture. You know, I'm told that in Annapolis, Maryland, where the Naval Academy is, he's a part of their instructions and a part of their attitude because of him having sacrificed his life to save his crew. And the last words he is known to have said was, "Take her down," as they were under attack by a battleship. And in order to save his crew, he was still on top of the submarine before it submerged. And in order for it to submerge safely, of course, he had to close the lid. And his last command to his crew was, "Take her down," as he closed the lid so that they could escape safely. But he gave his life. And that term, "take her down," has become a part of naval culture. So Selma's very much also a part of the Navy culture. And so I'm very mindful, of that. And of course, it's Columbus Day, and today also is the day that the 20 remaining alive Israeli hostages have been released by Hamas. Now, I'm just curious. I'm wondering what's going to happen with all of the protests and some of these so-called liberal universities that have embraced the anti-Jewish move and free Palestine and all those slogans now go out the window. I'm sure they'll come up with something else. Now they've got to regroup because I'm sure they were not expecting peace in the Middle East. And so we'll see how this thing works out. They're having more peace in the Middle East than we are in this country. In fact, they're dancing in the streets. The Palestinians are dancing in the streets. The Israelis dancing in the streets. And there's a significant return of indigenous Palestinians to Gaza. And I was listening to a few analysts over the weekend. One of them made the point that the last time Israel and Palestine or Gaza Strip had peace, the Israelis left them alone and let them govern themselves, but Hamas came in and dominated the politics through force. And it is Hamas that broke the peace. And so they're going to try and structure a government in such a way where the Palestinians can rule themselves. And they're hoping that they can structure it in such a way that they don't end up with a neighbor that is intent on the annihilation of Israel. I think that's most reasonable minded people would probably say, well, yeah, well, that makes sense. And so hopefully this will hold up. The ceasefire so far has. And so we just have to pray that things continue to go well in the Middle East and pray for our president while he's in Israel and headed to Egypt. I tell you, I, I don't know, Mr. President. I wouldn't. I don't know. You have to give him credit because he's in dangerous territory. Uh, I have no idea. I can't even imagine what the security would be like presently with him. Even with some of these other shootings that have taken place, when Charlie Kirk was assassinated, and the first attempt on President Trump's life, I was amazed because uh, in Selma, when we have dignitary everybody Sunday, and I've got a bunch of pictures of it. You look up on the rooftop, what do you see? 10, 15 sharpshooters with the Secret Service looking down on the crowd. So we know that somebody is aware of what rooftops are about. Hmm? Viewpoint, you're on the air. Yes, sir. How are you this morning?
To him talk, I get tired of listening. He just rumbles on. It's kind of like he's up salon. They just keep on and on and on and on. But he's not a politician. He's a businessman. And I doubt that any other leader we've had in the last few months could have done what he's done, fostering this peace deal. And, the guts that he's got to have to even go over there. He's going to Egypt right now. And you start talking about what's on his life. You're in a different country. You don't have control. And there's so much people. And the chances of him being assassinated overseas would go up exponentially. But he's got the courage go and to speak and to foster this deal and make sure it goes through. But most a lot of people in this country wouldn't give him credit for what he's done. And could you imagine Biden doing this? I mean, it's laughable. And the left hates him so much they wouldn't give him credit. And I just took my hat to him. He's doing things that is out of the box. And he's going to be out of the box. That's how the country's now $37.8 trillion in debt. It's going up exponentially. Randy, we can't afford this. We're on a sustainable path. And if we don't make some cuts and some dramatic cuts where we're going, we can't sustain this as a country.
Well, how about the military not being paid through ordinary government funds, but the tariffs? I understand the tariffs, the $8 trillion that they've been able to, $8 billion they've been able to pull from the tariffs is what's going to be used to pay the troops. And so it's a good thing he had something going on.
Because the politicians, when I say this, I say it was all, they don't give a rip about us. They care about themselves, and they're in there for life. They get a pension for life. They're all about showmanship, and I'll beat you down and prove I'm right. We ought to be working towards the common good. And we don't always have to agree, but we should agree upon this country that just our country, we ought to pull together as one. But,
it's hard to do because you've got this narrative. Well, no, you know what? I think at the end of the day, I think about what's happened with Hamas and Israel. Hamas won the public relations war. And I think that for some reason, the left has a better PR machine when it comes to negative. And I think that a lot of that negative has been directed towards President Trump with a false narrative. It's one thing if you're telling the truth, but if you're creating a narrative that doesn't exist in order to win, I have problems with that.
well, but the problem shouldn't be with them, but it's with us, because we're the ones falling for it. We don't even question. We just we see something on Facebook and we think it's true, or we hear some official talking. It's just like this shutdown. Well, if the Republicans would only give us another $1.4 trillion for more medical care, then we'll keep the government open. But how much more money do we need to spend before we vote? And then it all topple. If there's no money, nobody gets any health care. And I'm sorry, health care is not right.
Well, I'm hearing too many people. Yes, sir. Thank you. Thank you so much. I'm hearing too many people in other cities, like Chicago and a few other places, say that a significant amount of this healthcare money we're talking about has been set aside for illegal immigrants. Some say that they're using the emergency as their primary physicians and primary care. So I don't know what all that means. Viewpoint, you're on the air. Good morning. How are you?
I'm all right. To get to the answer, it doesn't mean there's nothing all of it. But why can't you realize that the Republicans want to put a debt on, give it millionaires and billionaires tax break? He gets passed, right? He gets $3 trillion going to Michigan to the top. Rich people in place. But they cut money from social programs that people really need. Poor people really.
Which programs are you talking about that they're cutting?
They're cutting Medicaid. They're cutting
Are you talking about the fraud that they're cutting in Medicaid, or are you talking about people who are on Medicaid that are not supposed to get it, or are you talking about some other legitimate? Which legitimate Medicaid programs are you referring to?
On the books that the immigrants cannot get any federal funds. You know, immigrants need to be, people jump in an accident or anything else, and you have to go to a country. Everybody in the country, no matter who you are, you can't go to the emergency room. I'm going to sign it. It's only good. Federal funds. Federal this lie the Democrats are throwing illegals and stuff. It is a lie.
Well, you keep calling it a lie, but the Democrats won't sit down and talk about it, and they won't be transparent. And I hear a lot of lying going on. It's hard to go. The lying has become normal for so many of these politicians. I'll give you credit. You seem to be really familiar with the Democratic talking points. You got it down pat. The same talking points I hear on MSNBC and CNN, you just regurgitated word for word. Why won't you're five Democratic votes away? They keep saying the Republicans are holding this thing up, but because they need 60 votes in the Senate, they've got 55 votes, 5 Democrats, but you can't get another 5 Democrats to vote. And you're telling me that that's all right?
Well, the thing about it, and I'm talking about the history now and all of it, the Democrats do not trust the Republicans. I wouldn't trust them either. They say that you too much when you open your gun like that. Well, I think you just go and do it now. Because the thing about it is this: he's talking about subsidies for the ACA.
Let me make you hit the ceiling. President Trump has just negotiated peace in the Middle East, and you can't get 5 Democrats to open the government up.
Well, the thing about it is, the Democrats are fighting for the American people too. They fight for the people in this country. Matter of fact, this is one of the other groups. And the thing about it is, Republicans are not serious. They don't it, because I just keep telling my friends with cars going to the legal defense. And you keep telling a lie over and over.
Well, let me do this. If it comes out that what you're saying is not accurate, will you publicly apologize? If it comes out that what you're saying is not accurate, and that the Republicans are not lying, will you apologize? Yes.
Okay, now, you just go over the government
now remember now, I've got to do that because I know they're playing on words. That's the first thing. Words do matter. I can I can almost tell when they're getting ready to lie after the first sentence. I don't know yet. I gotta take my time and go through it. I know a lot. I can smell a lie. I just gotta see which way it's being done. I didn't say that. You said that. I said lying is becoming normal, and some of it is on both sides, is what I said. It's become normal. Lying has become normalized. At the same time, in 2004, when President Johnson came over here in office, he had to become it came out and he told don't matter what anybody has said, nobody else got it done. I got to go to the other line. Thank you for calling Viewpoint. You're on there.
Randy, I've said this before. If he knows so much about running for government, he needs to run as a politician and get in Washington and straighten them out because nobody else knows anything but him. But he was talking about the law being on the books, so therefore they can't do this and they can't do that. There are laws on the books that said all these millions of people can't come to our country illegally, and yet they did it, and they're still doing it to a certain extent. So what does it think that laws being on the book is worth whatever they're not going to enforce them to start people? So, but again, it just hates Republicans to the core, and it's just unbelievable that anybody can hate that. But that's all I got to say. It's just that he knows everything and don't know anything. That's what I'm trying to say.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Thank you so much for calling. And it is what do they call it? Trump derangement. Trump derangement sentiment. That's the only thing I can come up with. And I'm not saying that that's necessarily the case with that particular caller, but I see and hear a lot of that. What I would consider to be what I would call Trump derangement, because they're so focused on him until it doesn't matter if he's pushing something that works or not. It has become so partisan until that's all they seem to be able to see. Viewpoint, you're on air. You said Republicans. That's you talk to the last 30 years. We have the Republican Party after the people. Talking about, every time they get an office, they hear wishful thinking or whatever. What policy have they done for the people? Everybody hates them. Everybody hates what they're doing. They're not doing their job. They don't want to go. They don't know how. The only thing they think about is rich people. And one thing about it is this. I don't know all of us can read this. It isn't really something from the people itself. And this and all other stuff. It's like $230 billion a year go to subsidies for the big business, pharmaceuticals, the oil companies, and all of those. You're giving them money for what? They're always making billions and billions and billions of dollars. Now, make that make sense to me. Well, I got some other folks trying to get through you. This is your second call. Thank you for calling Viewpoint. You're on there. Hey, Yes, sir. How are you this morning? Doing fine. Doing fine. What's on your mind?
Yeah, he complained about this, complained about that, complained about everything. He said, man, he's not talking to me. Yeah, who the heck is going to that thing up? Most of the ain't gonna millionaires and you ain't gonna country Democrats. And they didn't get it by doing honest work. They did it by stealing. A politician does not go ahead and wait for a pay. A Democrat on the head wants to steal a whole lot of their head and can get away with it without getting caught. Now that is a foreign fact. You know how I learned that? I learned that from a politician. Politician named, yeah, John K. Sullivan.
Wow.
And I have talked to a lot of people, mostly black. I still got black friends. Not a whole lot of those, a little bit. And they told me about his Woodward City. He said Joe Sloan was one of the quickest politicians that ever come down the pike. They'll put him above their head to George Wallace. And that's saying a lot. But the thing about it is, they respected him. He treated his workers right. And that right there says a lot too. But this clown he got right here raving and who do you think that rich politicians are? They know Democrats before they turned into Republicans. Why? Because they have most of them like they ain't going to think they have common sense. You know, they did change the mind because by the way they were looking at it, the way they be they got money. Yeah, they said this right here I had it was not right.
Yeah. Well, it's crazy. I don't know. All I can do is well, we know that there was a time when that may not have been the case. There was a time when it was different, but no, the Democratic Party has a lot of heavy financial support from billionaires. I think the only billionaire that the Republicans have, along with President Trump, was Mr. Musk. But the rest of them are Democrats. That's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, right, for some reason or another, they had the wrong party. Well, back in the 60s, who's in charge in Alabama? Democrats. Okay, who's right here kept black folks down by and mostly run down short with can't put them up to date Democrats. George Wallace said in the 2.5 floors up there in Alabama State University, I think it was. The segregation now, segregation forever. And what happens? The Democrats. Here, somebody playing with Baudet. Not listening. Brain dead. We get the head stuck at the head from the head and I'm going to listen to Democrat. Randy, Brandon, don't tell the head make you want to think that what the hell is the coming to?
Well, No, I know the answer, and I understand, and I know. Remember, now we're in an 80% Democratic city and county region. I understand that, but at some point we have to. And also, what a lot of people don't understand in this area is that the left is out of New York, in California, and Chicago. That's why they want to get rid of the electoral college, so that they can tell the rest of the country what to do. I don't believe the Southern Democrats of the Black Belt have the same value system as those that are following AOC in New York, for the most part. Big difference. But hey, the thing is, you have a lot of black faces, and unfortunately, and I know that there's a lot of political machinery that has put a lot of black politicians in charge, and they don't care about their own community. I'm gonna play a clip in a few minutes just to address that by itself. See, it just depends on what media you listen to.
I tell you, I mean, this stuff in Chicago, right here, that thing on that, is 0%.
Unfortunately, we won't know about him until the next election in Chicago. But they're saying they want to turn Chicago red. They want to turn Chicago Republican because of the way the black community is being treated by their Democratic leaders. I'm not saying that. That's what the people that live there are saying.
No. I mean, they said they got have bars and all the rest of it, and he gets up there. I love them illegal things, not in the white community, but in the black community. And this everybody say that here, he wants don't get ice and get it illegal. It is amazing that that man back here can still put his shoes on in the morning.
It doesn't make sense. Well, I'm getting ready to play a piece now, in fact, from a Chicago resident, a black woman, that's talking about, and she says she's a lifelong resident of Chicago, to give us some idea of what she sees with boots on the ground.
And I think I have some of them wanted to get the thing on that and go with them. And the governor. So that right there came right ahead. He's gonna be doing something like I gotta go, Randy.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much. And so now this is another report out of Chicago. Let's listen to see what they have. Let's see what they have to say. This is a Fox and Friends report from our network affiliate of Fox News.
Has continued to push back against President Trump, sending the National Guard to Chicago. Chicago's Mayor Brandon Johnson, very unpopular, saying this, quote, "I urge our federal government to listen to the advocates, experts, and Chicagoans who are calling for resources that stop the endless flow of guns, and as well as transformational investing in housing, education, mental health, and community safety. These are the same investments that are leading to historic reductions in crime and violence throughout the recent years." But take a look at this timeline over the weekend, where the city saw 36 shootings that left 6 people dead. That's progress? We're joined now by Kata Truss. She's a longtime Chicago resident and Community Roundtable director. So what the mayor's pointing to is murder being down 50%, robbery being down 50%. But there are some really disturbing numbers.
selmapostherald.com. We invite you to come down and let us help you with your service and your transportation needs.
And reliable in Selma, where they truly have it all.
Every season is a great season to have a Cotton State Barn. From holiday stores to spring and summer yard work, there is a Cotton State Barn perfect for you. It's always zero down, no credit check, free delivery, and low monthly rent-to-own payments on Alabama's top-rated #1 selling portable barns. And don't forget, 90 days same as cash. Cotton State Barns are built in Alabama for Alabama. Visit the website, cottonstatebarns.com, and see all the models, including brand new styles and sizes. Take a tour of 19 different models, styles, and sizes, and find a dealer near you at cottonstatebarns.com. It's the highest quality and most affordable storage solution with the industry's longest front-to-back 6-year warranty. No credit check. Full monthly rent-to-own payments and free delivery anywhere in Alabama. And it's always 90 days same as cash. Cotton State Barns, built in Alabama for Alabama. CottonStateBarns.com.
Well, homebuyers, zero down restrictions may apply.
Good morning, Anthony Bickers from WSFA 12 Newsroom. However, police have two more homicides on their hands this morning. The first was on Dexter Avenue, the block closest to the fountain, about 5 o'clock Saturday morning. The PD did not release the victim's name, only said he had already died by the time officers arrived. Another shooting was on Fitzpatrick Boulevard. It sent a young man to hospital with life-threatening injuries from a gunshot wound. The last of 13 surviving hostages were released by Hamas to the Red Cross. It's the third week. The Smithsonian Institute posted it's temporarily closing 19 museums, research centers, and the National Zoo. It did reassure the public animals will continue to be fed and cared for. I'm Bethany Davis in the newsroom.
1490 WHPB. I'm having some issues with those audio clips because I also want to get into what's happening in Montgomery in this rash of violence that took place throughout the South over the weekend. Viewpoint, you're on there. Viewpoint, you're on there. Okay. Boy, South Carolina, Georgia, Mississippi. Tyrone Davis's hometown is where the first mass shooting took place at a homecoming football game. As a matter of fact, there were 3 mass shootings that took place in Mississippi over the weekend. And allegedly, so far, they all involve teenagers. A little different in South Carolina because that was at a bar. A little different in Georgia. No, Georgia, there was another homecoming activity. There's a problem. The United States has a problem with violence, and we've got to find ways to address it. I often say that my first solution, of course, is to turn back to God. But a lot of people don't want to hear that who don't believe in the power of prayer or who don't have faith. If I were going to get into the worldly sense, then I say, well, then enforce the law. That's too much like right, too. Anyway, Viewpoint, you're on the air. The hands of Tom. Yes, ma'am.
I call because I'm curious. This is a wonderful time. I'm not complaining. But the children were out on school already, and they're out again today. That's a nice weekend. I think about all these holidays that these children miss. It's not to get the things that I want to remember all the get over to you. They said, I told them to come in birthday.
No, I think Columbus Day was a holiday for us when I was in school.
Yeah, but it was an indigenous
Well, it depends again on who you listen to and what media you're inclined to be influenced by. But you're talking Indigenous Peoples Day is what some people are calling it now.
So anyway, my name is, one of the reasons I have to move around, just, I consider the peace of a conversational calmness. So, I just thought about that. I never had that in the fall, or that they call it the fall break. I never heard that about a break walk. There's so much going on. You pay attention and get good. Just need to hold on because the Republicans have screwed up this world so much until they want to get out of the way. But God is not. He is going to correct this evil land. He's going to do the evil process that's going on. I just try to be everybody for a long time. And we see how to discern the mess that this country makes up in.
Thank you for calling. And, somewhere in my memory, the scripture says, you've taken on the ways of our oppressors. And if I close my eyes, I cannot see a difference in the elected officials anymore on a national level. And I understand party loyalty. Everybody, this party loyalty thing is about trying to get into a position to have seniority so that I can rise to becoming a member of a certain committee or chair in a certain committee. And eventually, you're supposed to have some authority. And so, you can't have it both ways. I'm critical of Black elected officials who are now in positions to take advantage of the seniority and don't use it to help the people. That's not everybody that's guilty of that, but far too many, are more focused on getting national notoriety and publicity and being well known and as opposed to serving the districts that they're elected from. And so all of this, is going to come up eventually. People are going to get sick and tired, like they are, and sick and tired of it in Chicago. And they're getting sick and tired of it in a whole lot of places. And then the very same people, some of us are listening to today, right now, are going to change their tune. But I'm recording. I'm not going to let you forget, because if we follow certain kinds and certain ways of thinking, if we fall into that trap, then we're going to have more of the same potholes and dilapidated buildings because we're not focused on government. Let's take this last break.
Insurance recently voted best insurance agency in the Sun Journal Reader's Choice Awards. And a big round of applause for Lauren Adams, named Best
Let me see if I
Customer
can
Service
find.
and for Chase Uzi, voted Best Insurance Agent. Roman says thank you. Thank you to our loyal customers who continue to trust us with your insurance needs year after year. Your confidence means everything to us. I'm Open Peak. At Peak Insurance, we're proud to be the only locally owned independent insurance agency in Dallas County. From helping you choose the right coverage to standing by your side if you ever have a claim. We represent many great insurance companies, but we work for you. We're also honored to be the exclusive representative of all owners in Dallas County, along with many other top-rated carriers. So once again, from all of us here at Peak Insurance, thank you for your loyalty and thank you for your confidence. Stop by and see us at 1003 Broad Street in Selma. Call today or visit peakinsurance.com. Peak coverage, peak service, Peak Insurance.
Hello, everybody. G-Man here. Did you know that Alabama is located in what is known as the stroke belt? Right here in our listening area, 43.4% prevalence of adults who repeatedly suffered from high blood pressure. Other risk factors include high cholesterol, diabetes, obesity, and smoking, which can all lead to serious health problems and even death. I was one of those who used to pay very little attention until I had another heart attack and had a really hard time walking due to blockage in my circulatory system. I thank the good Lord every day that my physician refers me to AVS, Alabama Vascular Specialist, for Dr. Ralph Red, Dr. Erwin White Giddens, and Dr. Richard Tan. Lead a team of professionals that truly care about their patients and get to the root of their patients' vascular problems. Then provide the care needed to get them on the road to recovery. If it weren't for AVS, I don't know if I would be here talking to you today. 334-801-9952. Check them online at alabamavascularspecialist.com.
Okay, I think I got it right. This is what I call this is a work in progress as I'm working the bugs out with YouTube. I know what I think I know what I did wrong, and we'll see in just a minute. But this is Fox and Friends report from Chicago.
To push back against President Trump sending the National Guard to Chicago. Chicago's Mayor Brandon Johnson, very unpopular, saying this, quote, "I urge our federal government to listen to the advocates, experts." Illinois lawmakers continue to push back against President Trump sending the National Guard to Chicago. Chicago's Mayor Brandon Johnson, very unpopular, saying this, quote, "I urge our federal government to listen to the advocates, experts, and Chicagoans who are calling for resources that stop the endless flow of guns, and as well as transformational investing in housing, education, mental health, and community safety. These are the same investments that are leading to historic reductions in crime and violence throughout the recent years." But take a look at this timeline over the weekend where the city saw 36 shootings that left 6 people dead. That's progress. We're joined now by Kata Truss. She's a longtime Chicago resident and community roundtable director. So what the mayor's pointing to is murder being down 50%, robbery being down 50%. But there are some really disturbing numbers when it comes to carjacking and other areas, like burglary being up, felony theft being up 46%, misdemeanor theft up 61%, and motor vehicle theft 80%. So, Kata, tell me, do you guys need help?
We absolutely need help, and I've been a Chicago resident all my life. I live in the Austin community where I've lived for the last 40 years. Earlier this year, my husband was carjacked right in front of our house. And so if you ask me, if you ask any victim of a violent crime, how they feel about crime in the city of Chicago, any of us will tell you that we are not safe, that we don't feel safe. We don't feel that our police department is doing enough. And whether it's because of resources or the amount of money that the city is spending or has to spend on violence prevention, I can't necessarily speak to that. I'm sure that more money would help, but I'm not even sure if I want to see more money come here, considering the misuse of the monies that this government has had thus far. I also saw a video of Governor Pritzker walking along the lakefront in the city of Chicago, talking about how peaceful it was. But I urge him, walk down 79th Street, walk down Chicago Avenue, walk down Central Avenue where I live, and then tell me that you feel the same way. Or more importantly, Governor Pritzker and Brandon Johnson both have security details. If Chicago is so safe, as I heard Brandon Johnson say a couple of weeks ago, Chicago was one of the safest cities in America, why do you have a security detail? Why don't you get rid of it? You know, Brandon Johnson was a strong component for defunding the police before he became mayor. I don't see him talking about that now. Those talking points are not a part of what you hear him saying. And so also talk to those people, those business owners who are being robbed weekly and are afraid to open their businesses, don't know if their business are going to be able to survive because they're constantly being robbed. Ask those people how they feel about crime here in Chicago. Ask those 3 senior citizens who were gunned down in front of their senior building a couple of weeks ago, how they feel about violent crime in the city of Chicago. And so for our elected officials to stand and to say that the city is safe and that the crime is not that bad is a myth. Also, I looked at a study.
Yeah. She just dropped off. We're going to get her back in a second. She doesn't even need me here. I could understand how excited and how upset she is when someone says everything's safe and your husband was carjacked a few weeks ago. Someone says someone's safe. Take a look at this. This is Chicago's weekend shootings. I just want you to take a look. See the yellow dots? Those are all the shootings took place. 7 o'clock, 10 o'clock, 10:15. This guy's telling everybody he's safe, and the red dots are that's the shootings that result in the deaths. They are between 12 to 13,000 more cops. They need 12 to 13,000 more, and he's refusing free help from the federal government. Incredible.
I'm Steve Ducey.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.
New things in terms of recording, so that I don't have to be dependent so much on what happens with the internet signal. Sometimes again, if you get a lot of folks on at the same time, it can slow things down and create new problems. But I'm just sharing that with you because it is so easy, for me to sit here in Selma, Alabama, and join the Democratic narrative of Chicago, of the Democratic governor and the Democratic mayor, say that there's no crime, no problem with crime in Chicago. Everybody knows that's a lie. Anywhere in the country, if anybody even suggests to say that Chicago is the safest city in the United States, then you would have to probably be living on the waterfront, like the sister said. But you go into the inner city of Chicago and you'll find out what's really happening if you survive it. And so I'm just saying, I think that we have to be realistic. I'm not a diehard Democrat. I'm not a diehard Republican or a diehard Independent. I'm nonpartisan in my thinking and my thoughts. Now, when it comes to practical voting in Dallas County, I almost don't have much of a choice but to vote Democrat. And so I'm going to choose the best candidate that's available. And when I vote statewide and nationally, I do not vote a straight ticket. Depends on who the candidate is. A lot going on. We better pay attention, or we'll be sorry. But anyway, thank God for hopefully it is his blessing on Israel and Palestine that they have a lasting peace in the Middle East. You have yourself a safe and enjoyable day. Pray for our president that he gets back safely, And I'll see you tomorrow morning, the good Lord willing. Stay tuned for Fox News. It's 9 o'clock.
President Trump is about to land in Egypt after celebrating in Israel.